Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Ask Eddie. This is actually the second half of a conversation that we started 2 weeks ago in January. Hello. Say hello. Say hello to everybody. Anyway, the reason why I cut it into two halves was because we went 2 hours, and I felt that was too long for one broadcast. So here's the second half. If you missed the first half, it is up on our YouTube channel, North City SF. So please enjoy the second half of it. Go back and watch the first half if you missed it. And we'll see you soon. Thanks a lot.
Somebody's grooming furiously.
I know.
This is math. Oh, now as I said it, now that I noticed her, she gets down.
Okay. Dear Eddie and Ann and Kitty co-stars, I've really been enjoying listening to you both discuss all things noir, especially the conversations about noir from a woman's perspective, a subject I've studied for years. I recently saw Chicago Deadline, 1949, and found it to be a good example of a film that takes the woman's side, even though it has a male protagonist. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Chicago Deadline, if you have shown it, and if you have any idea whether Universal will ever release it for home viewing. And that's from our friend Sloan. Hi, Sloan.
Hi, Sloan. I like Chicago Deadline. We have shown it. The only print that I'm aware of is on deposit at the UCLA Film and Television Archive. It belongs to somebody. It either belongs to Paramount, who made it, or it belongs to Universal. But it's interesting that I don't know the answer to that, because it was deposited at UCLA. So the entity that deposited it may still own it or may not still own it. There were a lot of Paramount films in the late 1940s that were purchased by Universal, which is why you see things like The Blue Dahlia and The Glass Key, and movies, Paramount movies, that if you want to show them in 35 millimeter now, you get them from Universal. Except there are films that were not part of that deal, like Sorry, Wrong Number, which is a Paramount film still controlled by Paramount, or Sunset Boulevard, same deal. But yeah, Chicago Deadline, you may have noticed, Sloan, is a lot like Laura, but it's a newspaper man who kind of becomes obsessed with this woman who's found dead in a brothel. And he becomes obsessed with finding out the story of her demise. Played by Donna Reed, who plays in flashbacks, plays the woman. It's good. It's not quite great in my estimation, but certainly worth a restoration, which I'd love to see happen at some point. And your point about the women is well taken. I mean, there's a lot of good women in it, including June Havoc, in addition to Donna Reed. She has a good role in the film. And it's written by Tiffany Thayer, who a lot of people mistakenly think is a woman, but is not. Tiffany Thayer wrote the original story that it's based on, I'm pretty sure. And Tiffany Thayer is a very, very interesting man. Just Google Tiffany. I won't go into it now, but if you ever want to go down a rabbit hole, Google Tiffany Thayer and find out what a completely unusual life this guy led. It was very, very strange. Okay. Suzanne says, maybe someone has asked this before and maybe it's been answered, but if not, are there any movies besides Raw Deal that feature a woman as the narrator? The answer is yes. And I take it you know the answer.
I was going to say no. I should know, but nothing's coming to.
Nothing's coming right now. You had that expression on your face like you were going to hit the buzzer on Jeopardy. Like I know that one. No.
I'm just very interested.
I'm sure there are more than this one, but the one is Kiss of Death. which is narrated by
Oh, that's
Colleen
right.
Gray.
Yeah. That's right. I always forget that. Yeah.
Yeah, Nettie, the character of Nettie, the wife of Victor Mature, actually narrates
Yeah.
the movie. Uh, yes, so that's the, and then because I can always hear Colleen's voice coming in at the end of the film because it's such an iconic ending on the street where I don't want to give away spoilers, but the antagonist gets his due at the end of the film, and Nick is like, the ambulance comes and he's shot, and then she shows up, and then she has the final voiceover,
Yeah.
And I had Nick,
Yeah.
and yeah, and that was a pretty big deal. Colleen was so proud of the fact that was only, I think that was Colleen's third movie
Yeah.
that she had made. And she had a fast start in the business because she did Red River,
Yeah.
right, and
Yeah.
she did Nightmare Alley,
Yeah.
and she did Kiss of Death.
That's pretty impressive.
Like, those are the first three movies she made. It's like, wow. And she also, and whenever I would say that, she would say, and don't forget, I also did Frank Capra's Riding High with Bing Crosby as my co-star.
Yeah.
And those were the first four movies that she made.
Yeah.
And at that point, Bing Crosby was the biggest box office star in America. So it's so funny how over time we look at Kiss of Death and say, wow, Kiss of Death. But of course, because, Richard Widmark's debut film, and, and a great noir. But at the time, out of all of those, I mean, for Colleen, she was obsessed with the idea that she got to actually kiss Tyrone Power on screen.
Yeah.
Was like everything,
Yeah.
But out of all of that, Riding High was the big one.
Yeah.
Because that was, Bing Crosby was it at one point. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny too, because whenever I think of Kiss of Death, I'll be honest with you, the first thing that always pops into my mind is a scene in the kitchen where she's like sitting on Victor Mature's lap, because it was just like, I don't know why, but that is so sexy. I think because he's got those like big strong arms, and anyway, for some reason that scene, that's the first thing that. Hi, Victoria.
Yeah, hi, Victoria. We're talking about your dad's big strong arms. That would be Victoria Mature, who Victor Mature's daughter, who was the last Ms. Noir City. She was the last Ms. Noir City when we had the festivals. And anyway, I'm hoping people will remind us on the feed of other movies that are narrated
by women,
perhaps by women. Yeah. Or noir films that are narrated.
Yeah. For some reason, I always. Women. With Laura, it's so funny because I always kind of think that I have to stop myself and be like, no, that's the novel, because the novel Laura, which I really recommend, different sections are narrated by different characters. So like with Laura, I have to remind myself, no, it's just Waldo in the film.
Right. Which is a thing. It's an interesting thing. The Big Clock is like that too. The novel, The Big Clock, follows different characters in the course of the novel, whereas the movie just sticks with Ray Milland. Anyway, and this is you now.
Okay, this is from Patrick. Part of the reason I enjoy watching film noir is my affinity for the time period, the music, the fashion, and more recently, the reminder of the simpler life we used to live compared to our hyper-connected world of today. I was wondering if you had the same likes and whether they show themselves in your everyday life.
I'm assuming that Patrick is suggesting, like, do I prefer the past to the present? It sounds kind of like what he's suggesting here. I was wondering if you had the same likes, the affinity for the time period. Well, obviously that is the case. But I don't think to the degree that I would say I wish I could go back and live in the past or something. I don't, I like things for their aesthetic value, and that's kind of it. So there are certain things that I'm not getting rid of my technology
Yeah.
today, but I'm sure people have noticed I have really tried to cut down on social media as much as possible, because I would prefer to read a newspaper to being on social media or something. But an old rotary telephone is not as valuable as a smartphone. It's just, there's unless it's a murder weapon, right? Then you
Yeah.
can kill somebody with one of those old rotary phones. But I suppose you could kill them with a smartphone too. But and it's funny when people say like, oh, Eddie does that vintage thing, like with the clothes.
Yeah.
But that's not really true, because I don't wear vintage men's clothes. The ties are it. That's the only thing that in the wardrobe that's vintage. Otherwise, all of the suits and everything you see on TV are new suits, just inspired by that mid 20th century look, which I really like. How about you, Anne? Are you what do you hold on to from that original noir era that is like actually part of your life?
The movies and the books.
Movies and the books.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be really into making cocktails, and I have a bunch of nice barware, some of it vintage, that I need to find a home for because I quit drinking. But I would do things like I like vintage cookbooks. That's just like one of my things, and stuff like that. So, or I'd have a themed party, like for my 40th birthday, I had a 39 Forever party, which is like a tribute to Jack Benny.
Yes.
Yeah, things like that. And I'm sorry, when you were talking about, you're not on social media much, it was so funny because you always swore that you'd never have a Twitter account. And then I remember I was down in LA for TCM Festival, and I saw this like tweet from this Eddie Muller account. And I actually texted you and asked you if it was really you or not, because I didn't want to retweet it if it was like a faked account. And then you tweeted back to me, no, TCM wants me to have a Twitter account. But like I said, like literally, that's how much surprise I had, was I actually reached out to you before I retweeted it.
You would have laughed uproariously if you could have seen what a schmuck I was fighting against having that account. But that it was actually set up for me in the offices, in the TCM offices at the film festival by do you know Mariah Gates?
Yeah.
Mariah was working at TCM then, and she set up my Twitter account and said, this is how you do this and this is how you do that. And I was like fighting it every step of the way. But TCM was like, no, if you're going to, you have to be on social media if you're going to be a host, right? You have to have a social media presence. And like they picked the photo and they did the whole thing and told me how to do it. And, there's value there, but it's not a way to spend your time. Yeah. I just want to say, I know, Anne, you do a lot of social media. You handle all the social media for the Film Noir Foundation, in addition to everything else that you do. But I have to share this. I had a nurse talk to me recently and say, these are the 3 things you have to remember if you want to stay healthy. Don't smoke, don't do sugar, and don't go on social media.
That's pretty good advice. Yeah, yeah. And also for me, I mean, my social media stuff is really typically just, I don't actually do that much personal social media, as people will know. And also I was actually really, really happy when TCM made you get a Twitter account. I was like, oh, fantastic. This will be good for the Film Noir Foundation. It's true, because I at you in every single tweet, because like you have more followers than the Film Noir Foundation account does. So for me, it was just like, I was very excited,
That's
frankly.
not good. Well, it's very, very useful. And as I've commented before, you know, when we started doing the festivals, everything was print media. Everything that I did was geared toward getting publicity in the print media. And I was back in 2003, I'm going to say from 2003 to like 2005 or six.
Yeah.
Good look there, Charlotte. I would say that I was disdainful of bloggers.
Yeah.
You know, of people who said, can I get an all access pass to the festival? Because I have a blog and I want to write about it. And my attitude was, these people are just trying to get free tickets, because who the hell, you know, is going to read their blog? And I was going after, you know, the San Francisco Chronicle and the Bay Guardian and all, you know, SF Weekly and all these things. And now it's completely flipped, completely flipped. You know, you can end up reaching so many more people through social media on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff than, you know, and the kind of coverage that you get in the print media has really been cut back, you know. So even when they write about it, it'll just be something that basically is tailor-made for the internet anyway, you know. So it's completely changed. Anyway, that wasn't exactly the question that Patrick was asking, but
okay, no, we seem to have wandered.
Yeah. Is this me?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And here's Michael, his second, Mr. Post Falls, Idaho, his second question of the session. Okay. And this is a little involved. I may have to jump around here.
It's really an interesting story.
In 1959, some friends and I celebrated my birthday by going to see the Disney movie Tonka at the Fox Theater in Hutchinson, Kansas. They ran a newsreel before the film covering, listen carefully, Charlotte. They ran a newsreel before the film covering the aftermath of Castro's takeover of Cuba earlier that month. The end of the reel showed four men, their hands tied behind their backs, blindfolded, and lined up, being gunned down by a firing squad. Besides movies, so the question here from Michael is, besides movies, did the Hayes office have any say-so over the content of newsreels, cartoons, and shorts during the 40s and 50s? If so, is this an example of the waning influence of the code during that time? It seems incongruous to show something in a newsreel that you couldn't show in a movie, and in this case, have it accompanied by a film that would have been seen primarily by children. Okay. I can answer part of this in a certain way. Number one, you would not have seen an execution in a newsreel were it not an execution being perpetrated by a communist regime.
Yeah.
That was shown. That was sanctioned not just by the Production Code Office. That was sanctioned by the United States government.
Yeah.
And probably the government requested that the people in charge show that specifically to turn public opinion against Castro. That was done all the time during the Cold War. And just like I would advise today, I would take some of it with a grain of salt, you know. But for instance, you know, it's not common knowledge, but, you know, like Dr. Zhivago, right? The novel Dr. Zhivago was really made a bestseller in this country by the United States government.
Yeah.
Right, because they wanted to use Boris Pasternak as an example of his novels were suppressed by the communists, but he in the capitalist West they could make him into a bestseller. So that was all kind of motivated by the government, and there are a lot of instances of that. Anyway. beyond that, I don't know if you have anything to add on this, but I'm just going to say that beyond that, um, there was a time when everything you saw in the movie theater was handled by the same entities, right? Everything, right? The newsreels, the cartoons, the feature films, the candy, everything was a big monopoly. And that's what the Paramount consent decrees of the late 40s, when the government basically broke up the studio monopoly, then the power over what was in the newsreels and all that kind of stuff shifted.
Yeah.
And it was not so centralized. But as for the specific thing Michael's asking about, I think in this instance, it was something that the government requested be shown rather than suppress it because it would be scary to children. They showed it specifically because it was scary to children, and they wanted American parents to say that's how they do things in these other countries. That's specifically why it was shown.
Yeah. Okay. That's really intense. I mean, when I read that question,
intense.
when I read that question, I really wanted to do it because it was just so interesting to me. So yes, you were traumatized for U.S. propaganda reasons.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't have a lot of vested interest in this. It's just fascinating, but
Yeah.
it is interesting how on the one hand, control of the content, there was control exerted over the content to protect people from certain things. But on the other hand, if it was against our political interests, then they flipped the script entirely. Yeah. And then it's like, well, but you can see this because this furthers our agenda.
Yeah. Okay. This one is 2 questions, please. Let's see who this is from. Sorry, couldn't do that. Sticking together. This is from Jonathan in Pittsburgh. I prefer short stories to novels. Are there particular Noir short stories or short story collections you can recommend? I'd love to have the stories in book form, but if not, are they available online?
Wow. Jonathan, I wouldn't even know where to start. There's so many Noir short story collections. I've contributed to a number of them, is he just referring to Noir stories in general, I wonder, or is he talking about Noir stories that have been adapted into movies?
He's just saying Noir short stories or short story collections.
Just to read Noir. I would say there's a lot. Akashic Books, of course, does the whole geographic Noir series that started with Brooklyn Noir and then San Francisco Noir, and now it's everything. It seems every big city in the world has had a Noir short story collection. I've contributed to several of those, but also there was like Megan Abbott's Hell of a Woman collection, which was all Noir short stories with female protagonists, of which I was one of the few male writers. I know what else did I contribute to? I contributed to Jewish Noir. I was granted honorary status to contribute to Jewish Noir, and there's a bunch of them. I would just suggest typing in Noir short stories and seeing, what comes up. My buddy Otto Penzler, is constantly putting out collections of the best American crime fiction short stories. He does one of those every single year. He does one of those. And I remember he asked me to contribute to one about, I think it was a collection of crime short stories about horse racing. And I remember Otto and I were so drunk when he did this that I blew it off and said, he'll never remember that he made me that offer. And then like 6 or 8 months later, he called me up and said, do you think I forget just because I've had a couple of drinks? I offered you good money. Where's the story? I was a bit humiliated at that moment, but Otto doesn't forget. Anyway, do you have any favorite collections of short stories?
There's one that Otto did that was Pulp Fiction short stories. And also there's been some collections of Cornwell Woolrich short stories, and he's one of my favorite short story writers. Like he can really write a short story.
Yeah. In some respects.
Oh my God. The Continental Op, which is probably my favorite collection of short stories.
Yes. Yeah, those Hammett short stories are fantastic. All the Op stories are great, but I also really like the Hunter and other stories, which was previously unpublished Hammett stories that weren't necessarily detective fiction or crime fiction even, but they were just really, really good stuff. I greatly enjoyed that. But yeah, the Woolrich's short stories in some ways are superior to his novels because they, plot wise, because he was so good with a premise for a short story, and then he had to like build a whole novel, and then invariably in the end they kind of fall short of the premise was so great it didn't quite live up to it. But the short stories are all it has to get to is that twist that works so well. And yeah, some of his short stories are far more effective than his novels. So anyway, I mean, I was wondering if he was really asking about the stuff that the movies were based on, because I spent a lot of time collecting the stories that movies we know are based on, because I want to see what the source material is, right? That's how that's what kind of got me going on the Gun Crazy book that I wrote, was finding McKinley Cantor's original story in the Saturday Evening Post and seeing how incredibly different it was from the movie that was finally made from it. And I've done this with a lot of stuff, like Frederick Brown's Madman's Holiday, which is the short story that Crack Up is based on. There's just all kinds of stuff. And I thought at one point of like trying to collect all of those into a volume, and saying, here are all these short stories that became familiar movies. But quite honestly, some of them aren't that good. Yeah. And it's like, wow, they really made a good movie out of this, which they clearly bought for the idea, not for the story, So anyway, there's a second part to the question, which I'll read. The two of you obviously have such respect and admiration for each other. Very nice. Could you share something about the other we might be surprised to know, or that you wish we knew? Well, I can't bust you for being a closet smoker, because everybody knows you've come right out and said that. Everybody knows that. You don't drink anymore, so I can't go into that. The cats are right there, that you're a cat person. We know that, I don't know. I've never caught you in any kind of unseemly act that would disgrace the foundation or your cats. So I don't know. I'm coming up kind of blank. Is there some kind of thing about me that you think people would be surprised to know? I don't know.
You're a pretty regular guy. I think maybe that's what would surprise people, because I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I read stuff people say about you because, it's been fun knowing you, because you were sort of like, when I first met you, I mean, people in San Francisco knew who you were. Some people in San Francisco knew who you were. And, and then it's been really weird because, of course, you started doing stuff on TCM, and then people like stuff. And then you started to really get, when you got this hosting gig for TCM, like, my mother's seen you on TV. Okay. People, like that. And it's really weird, seeing sometimes I'll see these comments about you, and it's like, he's nothing like that.
No.
And it's so weird to me because it's just like, so that's been fun kind of to see someone growing as more of a public persona, and you just see like what people say, and it's just like, so you're just a really regular guy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And
Well,
the one,
thanks, Ann.
yeah,
I'll take that.
yeah,
But I know what you mean, and it is kind of funny because, but I take my cue from, when you read about performers,
yeah,
like in all these movies and everything, they always, you know, I'll tell you why I'm able. I appreciate you saying that, and I feel that's very true, and that's why when we do this, it's in some ways like the antidote to TCM.
yeah,
It's like, because big production and all that, which is all great, but I'm just, I don't know. I don't know what I'm really trying to say, but I can tell you that when I did Dark City Dames and meeting those actresses who were like my, I had crushes on several of those women when I was a kid, and then seeing how they handled, uh, being a movie star and then not being a movie star and all that, and you got to see that, like Audrey Totter or Evelyn Keyes or Jane Greer or something like that, they understood what their role was as a movie star,
mm-hmm.
and before I became like the public persona of Eddie, I'd squire them to an event or something, and they'd be one way in the car, and then as soon as they get out of the car, they did their act as the movie star.
Yeah.
And that was a real education to me. Like, oh, that's how you do that. Okay. But they were completely down to earth, genuine people, 99.9% of the time. And then there was that moment that they had to click in, yeah, and like do the star thing that people wanted,
yeah,
and I guess I do that somewhat, but it's just show business,
yeah.
It's just giving people a show. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I think too, it's funny you brought that up because it made me think of Joan Crawford. And, she had this really famous quote because they were talking to her about how glamorous and stuff she was. And she was saying, like, if you want the girl next door, go next door. Which,
yes. Yes.
And she was right. And she had a real sense of a public persona. And she always went out looking fantastic because she didn't want a fan to see her and be disillusioned.
Yeah, that's
basically.
Interesting.
And she was also very, I mean, she actually answered fan mail herself, and she always credited her fan base as someone that she had to be very loyal to and have a certain persona for, because this was what people wanted from her. This is how she lived the life she did.
Yeah, there's no right way, I guess, to do it,
Yeah.
But I am, part of me, I mean, I feel a little bit like that. Like sometimes when I go out and I'm not, dressed,
mm-hmm.
I think, boy, I hope nobody recognizes me, or, it's just, but then I see, photos of like big stars, and these days it's like being a big star means you can look like hell,
yeah,
when you're not on stage.
Yes.
And it's just like, wow, when I see like actors in their baggy shorts and their, tennis shoes unlaced, and they just look, it's like, I don't say, wow, they're cool. I say like, dude, put on some clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look presentable.
Yeah.
I guess part of it is they don't want to be recognized, but sometimes I look at these people and it's like, you're noticeable because you look so bad.
Yeah.
So is that like a thing? Are you trying to have people see that? Anyway,
no.
That's not the question that was asked, but there you go. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, so David chimes back in because this is a follow-up to something we previously discussed. He says, no, Eddie, it wasn't a trick question. Who was the best Sam Spade?
Yeah.
It was the wrong question. The correct question should have been, who was the best Philip Marlowe? I think we even mentioned that when we, does he mean Philip Marlowe? I don't know. Because there are a lot to choose from, right?
Yeah.
Dick Powell, George Montgomery, Robert Montgomery, Humphrey Bogart. I'm trying to be impressive now by naming them all. James Garner, Powers Booth did it. Robert Mitchum obviously did it in the 70s.
Yeah. And actually, go ahead.
No, that's all he said. So he's asking, who do we think is the best Marlowe?
I mean, for me, it's probably, it's kind of, I guess it's Bogart. I'm not sure if that's because he's capturing though Marlowe in the books or not, because I kind of feel like in some ways, I mean, in an odd way, I found Elliot Gould's performance.
That's the other one. That's the one I missed.
Yeah. And because there's something about that performance that does capture like an aspect of the Marlowe from the books that aren't in the other ones. Like, I feel it's hard to explain. Like,
no, I understand what you mean. There's something about Elliot Gould's attitude and demeanor in the movie that, while maybe physically he doesn't look at all like you imagine Marlowe, his behavior is close to what Marlowe is in the books, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's among the people who have actually played the character, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that it's Marlowe, that it's Bogart.
Yeah.
But it seems unfair that he would be Sam Spade and Philip Marlowe. And people have heard me say this before. My perfect Philip Marlowe is William Holden.
Yeah.
He never played the part, but that's the actor that I think would have been perfect had they ever made The Long Goodbye as a movie in the early 1950s. He would have been the perfect actor to play Philip Marlowe in an adaptation of The Long Goodbye.
Yeah, and I would also say Sam Neill would have been good. And part of the reason why I say that is just, you're going to kill me. There is a John Carpenter film called In the Mouth of Madness.
I knew you'd get John Carpenter in there somehow.
And no, the reason why I bring it up is because it's really interesting, because basically Sam Neill plays an insurance investigator who's drawn into trying to find this writer who is sort of a Lovecraftian writer. And and then basically reality starts to work. But Carpenter's a huge Hawks fan, so he really wanted Sam Neill to be like Bogart as Marlowe, and he even had him like pull his ear.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I really thought, actually, though, for real, I think Sam Neill would have been a good Philip Marlowe.
Well, we'll see. I wonder if they're ever going to get around to doing the Liam Neeson as Marlowe, because
he's too old at this point.
Of course. Well, that's the thing that always happens with this stuff, as they talk about it. Because Clive Owen was going to do it, 5 or 6 years ago, and now Liam Neeson's going to, and in the end, they're never going to get anybody to do it, because I don't know actually that it can be done.
Yeah.
They were also going to do, a new version of The Thin Man.
Yeah.
I've read that script.
Yeah.
And, can anybody do William Powell or Myrna Loy today?
No,
I don't think so.
I just don't look at how they dress.
I know exactly.
It goes back to what you were saying before.
Exactly who would be the first candidate to play Nick Charles. would be Robert Downey Jr. Would be no, seriously, I know that's what they would do. And because he has today's equivalent of the William Powell style. Today's equivalent of that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You could see him with a cocktail tossing off of one liner or something.
I can see it. I just can't with that one.
But we haven't seen it yet, and odds are we're never going to see it. So
I think people know that it would just bomb. It would. I mean, I just don't think that people would want to see it, because the people that would be most likely to see it would be classic film fans and just anyone that's seen, those two together. I mean, they're just one of the greatest on-screen couples of all time, if not actually
I think they are the greatest. Yeah. I think they are the greatest.
Yeah.
But it's hard. I mean, I don't think period films are going to make it as feature films unless they're around a big historical event.
Yeah.
Where it has to be a period thing, like a film, about World War II or something like that.
Yeah.
But if you're doing a mystery and it's a period mystery, I just don't feel very positive about it getting done today. I mean, when you look at the fate of Nightmare Alley, which, has already been kind of written off as a box office bomb, which is totally unfair given the COVID situation.
Yeah.
But if you can do a period film that is, and I don't mean this in a negative way, that is literally a freak show.
Yeah.
And still not get people into the movie theater, I don't know what else it would take, because Nightmare Alley has all the trappings of a classic noir film, plus it's kind of grotesque, which should add to its box office appeal, but apparently it didn't,
Yeah, I think the only thing I think of recently that's been successful is Murder on the Orient Express.
Oh, the Kenneth Branagh one.
Kenneth Branagh one. I actually liked his portrayal of Poirot because it was actually a lot closer to the book. But I wasn't really wild about some of the casting choices. But they're going ahead with Death on the Nile, so.
Well, we'll see. Maybe.
Yeah. But those are star-studded casts, so I think that's part of the because and plus Agatha Christie's stuff is just hugely popular still. The novels and the TV series and stuff, let's face it, she's still incredibly popular, so that also helps.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Okay, your turn. We're down to the last two questions here.
Okay, so this is from Joe from Long Island. Oh, yes, Joe from Long Island. And the Noir with the most perfect cast, and the nominees are The Maltese Falcon, Double Indemnity, Key Largo, Too Late for Tears.
And he says, and the winner is?
And the winner is?
My write-in candidate, The Asphalt Jungle.
You wrote it
in. Yeah. I mean, all those are great. But in my estimation, The Asphalt Jungle is the best, has the best cast of any, noir film of that era. Yeah. I just don't think you can top it. Because it's truly an ensemble piece. It's not, like 3 stars and then a bunch of fill-ins, which is what happens when you get, no offense, but, Double Indemnity is Fred McMurray, Barbara Stanwyck, Edward G. Robinson, and then
some
interchangeable actors,
Yeah, no, I thought that the cast, the two other, heard
Lola Lane and Byron Barr or whatever, right?
Whoever the hell his name is. Yeah,
plays Nino Sacchetti. Yeah,
Nino Sacchetti. Yeah.
And the Maltese Falcon is come on, you can't do better than the main cast. I mean, I guess I would say the Maltese Falcon is number 2.
Yeah.
Although you are going to get a lot of people who will argue they want to trade out Mary Astor for somebody else.
Oh,
And
screw you. She's sexy. My God. She had a
she's
sex
great.
scandal.
She's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I would not have complained had the first choice, Geraldine Fitzgerald, played Bridget. She would have been great.
Oh, but
Mary Astor's fantastic. She's
stellar.
fantastic, and it's a great performance. And
Yeah.
anyway,
The
but the
Maltese
Asphalt
Falcon.
Jungle, top to bottom, Asphalt Jungle is like the best cast crime picture ever.
Yeah, and when I saw this question, my choice is definitely the Maltese Falcon, because it's also the minor characters. Ward Bond is in it too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a nice thing, and it's really, especially that role, you have to have that someone good playing the two cops.
Sure. Barton McLean, and then Gladys George is great.
Great. I mean, she's great too. And I mean, so it's not. That's what I like about that film. It's not like he slacked off after he cast the mains.
Right, but the Asphalt Jungle is a big cast. It's a big cast, right? And there's the whole gang, and then Brad Dexter is great in it as Bannerman, and who's the guy I'm thinking of that? Well, and I love Dorothy Tree, who plays Louis Calhern's wife. Right, his bedridden wife. She's just terrific in the film. All the female characters are really good in the Asphalt Jungle. And anyway, so that's my answer there, Joe. I like all your nominees, but my write-in is the Asphalt Jungle. Okay, lastly, I guess we're gonna go, because we get a lot of these, so I appreciate it, and you decided let's do a lightning round of noir or nots, and we'll go through this fast, and we'll each give our own opinion, okay? And so I'll start. You say what you think of it. I'll say, and then we'll move on. Okay. Here we go. Rocco and His Brothers.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, you haven't seen it, so I'm going to say you have something to look forward to. Great Luchino Visconti film. And I've been on a Alain Delon binge lately, trying to fill in a bunch of stuff that I haven't seen. I've seen Rocco and His Brothers, and it's fantastic. But I'm going to say it is noir stained, but that it's not really a film noir. I don't think you could legitimately call that film a film noir. It's art house noir or something. But that's just I come with my own preconceived ideas as well. Okay. A Place in the Sun.
Yes.
I'm going to go yes as well, even though, a Paramount A picture, nobody really thinks of it, but we've shown it at the Noir City Festival. And plot-wise, I don't see how you can get much more of a noir than that, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so close in so many ways to, it's like The Postman Always Rings Twice with money.
Yeah, exactly. With class issues.
Yeah, with class issues like right there. So, I'm going to say yes. The Heiress.
I have not seen it.
Really? But another film you have to look forward to.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's my favorite Olivia de Havilland movie.
Oh, I'll have to watch it.
And but I don't think of it as being a film noir. As much as I admire that film, and it has some of the best dialogue, most quotable dialogue, and Monty Clift is great in it. But there you go. Okay, next up is
Panic in the Streets.
Panic in the Streets. I am going to say no, not a film noir. And I think that The Killer That Stalked New York, which is like the companion film to it, is the reason why it isn't. Because Killer That Stalked New York is a film noir, because the protagonist is the criminal. And in Panic in the Streets, Widmark plays a health service guy who's clearly a hero. And, there are criminal elements to the film and everything, but I don't really, it's a suspense picture. It's not really a film noir. Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you agreeing with me on Panic in the Streets?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it.
It's another one I
Wow,
haven't
this is
seen.
great. You've got
Yeah.
a few choice movies to watch here. So at the end here, when we find out how many of these you haven't seen, I'll tell you the order in which you need to watch.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, all right. This next picture indicated here, I don't know what it is. So here's my I don't know. It just says Dateline. Is that the title of the film? Is Dateline?
Dateline is the title of the film.
I don't know it at all.
Yeah.
At all. So I
pass.
can't. I have to pass on that. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. Okay. Requiem for a Heavyweight.
Noir stained just in the way the film is made, but I don't consider it to be a film noir. It's different, like the setup is a film noir.
Yeah.
Body and Soul is a film noir. But Requiem for a Heavyweight is a slightly different thing. I love it. I think Rod Serling's script is fantastic, and my saying it's not a noir is in no way taking anything away from what's an absolute classic. Both of them, the TV version and the movie version. But I never think of it in terms of noir.
Yeah.
And the last one is The Hustler.
Yeah.
You're going yes noir.
No, I'm agreeing that is the next one.
Oh, that is the next one. Okay. And
because I have not seen The Hustler.
Holy Toledo. It is totally noir stained without, in my estimation, being a full-on film noir. It's weird. Would you consider, to me, asking is The Hustler a noir is like asking is The Hustler a sports movie?
Yeah.
I kind of have the same ambivalent attitude about that. I love the book, and I really like the movie, and I think Paul Newman is great. George C. Scott, fantastic. It's funny, these last two, Requiem for a Heavyweight and The Hustler, what do they have in common is Jackie Gleason.
Yeah.
Jackie Gleason is in both of them. And, and because of Robert Rawson's pedigree and the fact that he wrote a number of noir films and directed noir films, I'm very inclined to say that The Hustler is a film noir, but I kind of don't really think so. And my say so, who cares? But if more people thought that, you would see it on lists of late era noir films. But everybody says, Touch of Evil, Odds Against Tomorrow, even Blast of Silence, but nobody says The Hustler is like late era film noir. I'm inclined to say no, although I get why people think it feels like a film noir. Okay, so out of that, I'm going to say number one film that you need to watch is Rocco and His Brothers.
Okay.
Kind of just the way they're here. I mean, it'd be Rocco and His Brothers, The Heiress, and then I'd say, Dateline. I don't know anything about it, and I'm not I don't love Panic in the Streets. It's worth watching, but I would say I watched The Hustler before Panic in the Streets.
Okay. And what about Requiem for a Heavyweight? Because I haven't seen that either.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I kind of, the Anthony Quinn one is the way to go.
Okay.
Or Requiem for a Heavyweight. I like that very much. Plus, you get a Cassius Clay playing himself in the movie before.
Kidding?
Yeah. The very opening scene of the film is Anthony Quinn fighting Cassius Clay in the ring. It's pretty amazing. Do I need to say that he gives a great performance? It's a short bit, but he's basically doing his classic, mouthy Louisville lip shtick in the film before it was really a thing. It's pretty great.
Oh damn! Okay, I'm really excited to see that now.
Well, there. I'm glad I hit the right button for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's those are all good movies, but except I don't know anything about Dateline. Okay,
Yeah.
we did a lot
Yes.
this go round because this is our 1 January show.
This is our 1 January show because we have the festival hopefully next weekend.
Yeah, stay tuned. Stay tuned, fans.
Stay tuned.
Sports fans. We'll see if there actually will be I mean, it'll happen one way or another.
Yeah.
I mean, if it doesn't happen on January 20th to the 23rd, it's just going to be postponed and happen when we finally do have a handle on all this craziness. I mean, if I was in LA right now, it would be canceled.
Yeah.
Because LA is just out of control. If we were in New York, it'd probably be going on.
Yeah.
But it's just very hard to say. Plus, I don't want to go too deep into this, but it is, I witnessed when we did do a live show in LA months and months ago, a lot of people were like, this is the greatest thing ever. But then I was well aware of a lot of people who came and turned right around and left.
Yeah.
Because they weren't ready. They weren't ready for it. And so this is what I have to consider. And it's difficult to know the thing to do because you do want to get back to it.
Yeah.
But you don't want to get back to it if people are uncomfortable. You want people to feel free to have a good time when they've paid for their ticket. And if they feel constrained and unpleasant about it and like then just postpone it. We may just postpone it and do it later on. I want to ask Charlotte what she thinks about it, but
Charlotte?
She looks too that was nice. Charlotte, do you have an opinion about whether we should or should not go ahead with Noir City? A squeak means go ahead. No squeak means cancel. What do you say, Charlotte?
What do you think, Charlotte? Are we doing the show or not? Oh, she's just staring off angrily into space.
I
don't know what that means.
That doesn't sound good. Okay. Oh, now she answers. Okay, so. But did she get in under the time limit? Okay, that's enough. That's enough. And this was great fun. You can see my lighting has until we did this for so long. My lighting has entirely changed. Now I'm doing the noir lighting.
You are. And she wants to get fed.
So anyway, that was yeah. Okay, go feed Charlotte.
Okay.
Starve Emily, and I'm gonna go feed my COVID infected wife.
Well, I hope she feels
I have to
better.
slip the tray into her little cell, and
So
we'll see how that goes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, well, everybody, we will see you in February for sure.
Okay, and thanks again for all the questions. Were really terrific, and I guess we might be kind of caught up. Who knows?
Yeah.
So, okay, Anne, we'll see you soon.
See you soon. Have a good one.
Okay, bye.
Bye.